Hmm. Nothing's happened. Oh, here we go. I think it's recording. So Melissa, I think it's recording even with the AI transcripting. So I think we're okay.
Okay.
All right. So welcome to those of you who are watching the recording, and welcome to those who have been able to join live. We had over 110 registrations for this session, which just goes to show that behaviour with young children is something that people are concerned about. So I'm very pleased to be able to share this session with you in an effort to support you in your journey and the great work that you're already doing with young children. So we'll have about 30 minutes together, and then I'll stay around for some questions if there are any. But we'll get started and get moving with this so we can make the most of our 30 minutes together. So, children's behaviour. What are they trying to tell us? Well, let's find out. When I put this post on LinkedIn, the questions I asked was, what does the child who says, no, you can't make me, really saying? And what does the child or adult who avoids doing as we ask really telling us? And when annoying comments and behaviours continue with children or adult, what are they needing really? Because all behaviour is a form of communication, but sometimes we don't know how to read it. So during this session, we're going to have a look at the type of environment that we build for young children and our own workplaces. And also we'll take a look at what that means then for children's behaviour and our own behaviour. So let's see. Just to introduce myself a little to those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Kathryn Murray, and I have Future Strong education in Australia. And I work internationally. I travel a lot. I work with early childhood centres, upskilling teachers and adding to their already great knowledge that they have. I've developed the brain set environments formula that I'm going to touch on today, because it's all about building an environment for children that supports their brain development. And brain development impacts on the type of behaviours that we see with children as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about brain set today. I've been doing this sort of work for over 40 years, 25 years in the classroom as a teacher myself, working in universities with pre-service teachers, teaching them how to be a teacher, and also some consultancy work along the way. You can see I've got some qualifications there, and I've done a few things and gotten some awards and things along the way. But my most important thing is that I'm the mother to 4 great adults. And I've got 2 girls, 2 boys, and my youngest son got married last week, and my oldest son is getting married next week. So I'm home in Australia for a while to support their weddings and be involved in all that family stuff. So that's a little about me. But let's look at children and children's brains. Now, the brain stem, the bottom part of the brain, is the first part of the brain that develops in utero. So when the baby is first conceived, over time, the first part of the brain that develops is the brain stem. At birth, there's 25% of full development that has been created at birth. And that doesn't mean we only have a quarter of a brain. That's not what that means. It means the brain is fully formed, but the neural pathways and the neural connections aren't fully formed. There's only 25% of those that have been formed. By 2, there's 75% of the neural pathways that have developed in a young child's brain. And by 5, there's 90 to 92% of neural pathways that have been developed and are deepening in children's brains. Well, what does that mean, you might say? What that means is that when children are born, they have enough of these connections in the brain so that they can kick, they can cry, they can communicate in a way that lets us know what they need. By 2, there's many more of those neural connections in the brain, and some of them have deepened. The pathways have deepened. So electrical impulses or instructions or understandings, comprehension happens a lot easier as these neural pathways get deeper and get stronger. And that's what happens in those first couple of years. But it continues. And we know as early childhood educators that the first 5 years is critical for children's development. They learn so much. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. They form their own belief systems about themselves. They establish their values. I'm just wondering if whoever's talking could go on mute, please. Thank you. They establish their values as well. All of this happens when we provide a lot of open-ended opportunities for children and add to the sensory awareness of children. So give them lots of opportunities to explore things, to try things out, to touch things, feel things, smell things, use all of those senses. And that's what creates those neural pathways and also deepens them. The neural pathways deepen when children can practice things over and over and over. And that just continues for the first 5 years. After that, things level out a little bit because so much has been developed and there's been so much growth in those first 5 years. That's why young children need to sleep so much, because there's so much going on in their brain and their body is developing so quickly as well. So things start early with young children. The brain growth and brain development starts before birth and then continues depending on the experiences that children are offered. So what's this mean for us then in the classroom? We're here to talk about behaviour. What's this brain stuff got to do with anything? Well, it's got a lot to do with it. To start with, the brain develops over time. So children's understanding and communication ability happens over time, which you already know. However, sometimes our expectations don't quite match the level of development. So we might think that children understand what we're saying, but they don't really. Or maybe they're subject to this thing that we call brain leakage, and that's a bit of another conversation that I'm not sure that we're going to have time for today. But brain leakage happens when the instruction doesn't jump from one synapse to another. It actually leaks out. So sometimes children don't follow instructions because they didn't get that instruction. They might have got the first thing you said, or even the second thing you said, but the third thing, it just escaped. So we need to match our expectations with the child's developmental level. Maybe they're only able to cope with one instruction at a time, or maybe 2 instructions. So think about that. Try it out and see with your children. Also, when children have that sense of safety and they feel secure, then they'll take risks in their learning. And when they're taking risks in their learning, that means they're engaged and they're interested in what they're doing. So, of course, behaviour issues decrease because children are interested in what they're doing. I'm going to talk to you about that in just a second. And we respond to the built environment. The built environment is everywhere we are, pretty much. It's the building that we're in, it's the street that we're on, it's the car that we're in, it's the built environment. Now, I want you to just cast your eyes over to the image of the brain just there. This is part of my Brain Sets formula, and this is what I train early childhood teachers in. Now, we have 3 levels of the brain. We know the brain's really complex, but I've broken it down to 3 basic levels. We have the survival part of the brain, which is in the brain stem, which is if you put your fingers at the back of your skull and you feel that little indent, that's sort of where the brain stem is. And then we have the emotions that sit in this section here, just above your ear. It's called the limbic system. And the amygdala sits there. And then up the top, we have the neocortex, and that's where the thinking happens and the memories happen here in the prefrontal cortex and links to the hippocampus. And, there's a whole lot of stuff going on. But for a child to manage themselves and you help with their self-regulation in the classroom, they have to have that sense of safety. Having a sense of safety means the survival part of the brain is calm. It means that children know that it's safe in this space, that the roof isn't going to fall down, that they're not going to get hurt, they're not going to to be injured in any way. So they have that sense of safety. But along with that, they have to feel safe. So now we're up here in the amygdala. They have to feel as though you love them, they're wanted, they're valued, they have that sense of belonging. They have to feel all of that. Now, when those two are in alignment, children can think easily and learning happens easily, and they have a calm brain. My mantra is a calm brain is a thinking brain, and that's something maybe you might like to write down. A calm brain is a thinking brain. Now, sometimes children who have experienced trauma don't have that sense of safety and they don't feel safe. They feel slightly threatened all the time. And when that happens, there's a flood of cortisol that goes in the top part of the brain here, and that means that children can't problem solve so well. They can't self-regulate so well. They can't make decisions so well. They can't remember things as well as they might normally, because there's this thing called foggy brain, and the brain's just not functioning to its optimum. It's a bit like when we have a challenging conversation with someone and we walk away and we think, oh, we should have said this, or I should have used that as an example, but we didn't, because at the time we couldn't think of it. So we need to make sure we have this calm brain. Now, brain development starts at the base and works its way up. So when we're communicating with children, we need to do the same thing. We need to make sure they have that sense of safety. They feel as though no matter what they've just done, we still love them, and then we can talk to them. Very often, when we approach a child who might have done something, they might have pushed some blocks over or pushed another child, we will say to them, we don't do that here. Why did you do that? Or whatever we might say. But it's wasted breath, because until they have that sense of safety, so until we give them a hug and say, I could see what you did, I understand that you're angry, and just hold them for a minute, then you can have the conversation. We don't do that in this room. That's not how we treat our friends, or whatever your normal language is. But we have to start at the bottom and move up. If we go straight into a conversation with them, it's a waste of time. Save your breath, because it really won't make any difference. And children will just say sorry because they know that's what they're supposed to say, but they're not really sorry because they haven't really understood this whole process. There's more about saying sorry and the ability to be empathetic that I'd like to talk to you about, but I don't have time in this section. But it's to do with brain development and children not really being able to express empathy until they're about 7. So just keep that in mind as well. So the mantra, again, is a calm brain is a thinking brain. So if we can calm the brain, then we can think clearly. Now we can experience this in the different built environments. So how we think, feel, and act in this environment out in the bush would be very different to an experience here sitting around the pool at a hotel resort. How we think, feel, and act is very different to this space. This is a space in the pool one was in Los Angeles. This one is in India when I was working over there last year. And how you think, feel, and act is very different in India, and also in a place of worship. How you think, feel, and act is very different, because the environment that we create speaks. It pretty much tells us how to think, how to feel, and how to act.
Whatever the standard. Well, I mean, we have the one already up, you know.
I'm just wondering if you could go on mute, please.
Probably should be at the same height, don't you think?
Kim, could you go on mute, please? Thank you. So getting back to the environment speaks. So I want you to reflect on your environment, the environment that you've set up for young children. What is it saying? What is it telling them? I've been to many early childhood centres globally, really, and sometimes I go into a centre and teachers have created a space that is very open, or there's a big long corridor down one side of all of the furniture. And they tell me that the children are very boisterous, they're very noisy, they're very active, they run through the room a lot. And when we're looking at the environment, have a think about what that environment is telling those children. If it's very open or there's a big long corridor, it's pretty much telling them to run because the environment speaks. So it tells us how to think, feel, and act. So, let's consider what your environment is telling people. So let's have a look. This is part of my Brain Set Environments formula, and I've developed 3 pillars of design and 16 elements of design. And everything is underpinned by critical thinking and learning. So asking questions, communicating, analysing information, all of those sorts of things underpins these 3 pillars of design. In amongst all of this, we need to take into consideration what children's interests are, the developmental level that they have, who they are as a person, their background, their previous experience, and then we create an environment that speaks to them, but speaks to them in a way that guides the behaviour in the way that we want the behaviour to be. So you can see there that the 3 pillars align to those 3 levels of the brain. We've got the survival pillar, the design for learning, and there's multiple elements there. We've got the emotional pillar, which is the feelings for learning, how we feel about learning, because we want children to feel familiar and comfortable in our learning environment so that they can be relaxed. Calm brain is a thinking brain, remember? And we also have our thinking pillar. So now we're up here in the neocortex, and we have different areas in our rooms that indicate different ways to behave, different ways to act, different thinking, different feelings, and they all come together as part of your overall learning environment. Now, unfortunately, we don't have time to go through each one of these, but that's part of the training that I do that I'll talk to you about later if you're interested. Okay, let's get to these behaviours then. You may have seen some of these behaviours. You might have seen, something similar to these images. But what I want to share with you here is each one of these is the child telling us something, but it's up to us to be able to read between the lines and work out what it is. We all have needs, and the way we act, our behaviour as adults or children, is expressing the need that we have. So our behaviour is a form of communication. It's telling the other person what we need. So let's identify some of these needs. It could be the need for power. It could be, you're not going to tell me what to do. It could be power. It could be attention. And the attention is, look at me, look at me. And children don't care what type of attention it is. It can be negative attention or positive attention. They don't care. They just want to be noticed. So they have that need to be noticed. The first one, the power need, is because children have felt disempowered, whether it's at home or whether it's in your classroom. For some reason, they have felt disempowered, so they are looking for power. So that's those children that say, no, I don't want to. No, you can't make me. We've all had those. And the attention child, they're the child that is feeling overlooked, is feeling dismissed. So their need is to get attention. Then we have the child that has a bit of revenge. So maybe something's happened where they haven't liked being told what to do, or they've been put in a situation where they felt uncomfortable. And so now they're saying, well, now I'm just not going to comply because I'm going to get you back for that. So it could be revenge. And then there's avoidance. Avoidance is another way of really having some power, where a child just avoids what you're doing. They just drift off, or they go under the table, or they just, literally put their fingers in their ears and won't listen to what you're saying, or try and find something else to do so that they don't have to do what you've asked them to do. And perhaps they don't understand what you've said. Perhaps they've had that brain leakage and they didn't quite get it. Perhaps they're feeling a little insecure. Perhaps they're not feeling comfortable with the situation and not ready to take a risk in their learning. So my advice here is to look behind the behaviour. Look for the need that these children are trying to fulfill, because that's all they're doing. They're trying to communicate with you that I'm feeling disempowered. Please give me something to do so I get my power back. So you can. So if you've got a child that is looking for power, their need is to get some power, or maybe their need is to have some revenge, to get you back for something, offer them a choice. Give them some power. Empower them. Give them a choice. Would you like to go to the book area first or do some art first? You choose. Which one would you like to do? Give them back their power. Would you like to sit next to me here while I read a story, or would you like to sit over on the chair? Give them the choice. So choice is really powerful. I used this with my teenage children as well. And we all want to be heard. We all want to be acknowledged. We all want to have a say in what happens in our day. So giving choices is a really powerful one. If you're not sure, give a choice. But make sure it's a choice that you've carefully thought out. Make sure it's a choice that you don't care either way, whether they go to the book area or whether they go to the art area first. It doesn't really matter, but they have the choice. So they feel as though they have a choice. Now, attention and avoidance, they can be lumped together as well. And attention is meaning that they want attention, and avoidance is really they're looking for that extra attention too, because that's why they're avoiding it, because they're not quite sure what to do. So we need to bring them back in the fold. So with attention, give them attention. And it doesn't mean that, we get everybody to laugh at the silly things that they're doing or those sorts of things, but you can give them attention in different ways. You can wink, you can smile at them, you can just nod at them, you can give them a thumbs up, you can ask them to hold a paper for you while you're reading the story. You could do that with the power child too. You could ask them to give things out. And with the attention child, you can ask them to be in charge of something, but small little ways of attention. Ask them to walk with you and hold your hand while you're walking around the playground or outside. Think of the ways that you can fulfill the need once you've identified it. Now you might say, how do I identify it? How do I know which one it is? It comes down to how you feel. If you're feeling a little intimidated, if you're feeling like, oh, I don't really know what to do here in this situation, it's probably power or revenge. So then okay, I've got to give them a choice. If you're feeling irritated and annoyed by their constant behavior, their comments or their silly antics, or, they're interrupting or whatever it is that they're doing to gain that attention, well, then give them attention. Give them positive attention in a positive situation. Sometimes we have to overlook some of the negative behaviours and focus on the positives and add to those positives. Notice when they're sitting quietly and just jump on that. Catch them being good is the old phrase that we used to use years ago, but it still stands true. It's up to us to be vigilant and aware so that we can support these children. So we have to have these positive interactions with children to satisfy the need that is behind the behaviour. Hope that's making sense. We also have to have this serve and return communication, meaning it's a bit like a tennis match. So at the moment, I'm serving information to you. So I'm the sender. So I'm hitting the information basically across a net to you. You're the receiver. It's your job to interpret what you've received and then send it back to me. Then you become the sender. You're giving me feedback. Then I know whether you've understood what I've said, or maybe you haven't. Now, this serve and return communication deepens relationships, and it adds to this amygdala up here, and it adds to the emotional part, and it also adds to that sense of safety down here. And when those are aligned, we've got this clear thinking. So building those relationships with serve and return conversations is really important. That means we have to listen. Sometimes we can have some barriers to this communication, and it's like the ball getting stuck in the net. And that can be things like the language that we use, the words that we use, the terminology that we use, the way we say it, our tone. It could maybe is a physical impairment, maybe there's a hearing loss, maybe there's a lot of outside external noise, so our communication isn't very clear. So to build those relationships, we need to make sure that we have this serve and return communication going on all the time, and we minimise the barriers, and that helps to add to children's sense of safety, which means in our classroom situations, they're going to be more settled. There's some research that says if we spend just 1 minute with a child each day, that's enough to build these deeper relationships, and just talk to them. And by talking to them, I don't mean tell me about your art or tell me about the building that you've just built. I don't mean that. I mean, tell me about your little puppy at home. Tell me about that new little baby. Is she still crying all night? It's about those outside things so that children have that sense of interest, and that they can see that you actually really care about who they are as a person, not just what they're doing in your room. It's an important difference. Now, I just wanted to remind you here that when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment in which it grows, not the flower. So take a look at your environments. Think about what the environment is saying to you, but also to the children. Maybe get down on your knees. This is what I often suggest to people. Get down on your knees at the door of your room and look around and look for those big running tracks. Think about how your environment is speaking to the children. Now, if you want to know more about what we do here, you could join our community. And the first one here is the Futures Think Tank membership community. And each month I go through one of those 16 elements in depth. We take a deep dive into just one element a month at the middle of the month. And you get to try it out in your room. You get to send me photos, and at the end of the month, we meet back and I give you feedback on the photos and personal feedback on your room and your environment that you're setting up. So that's something that you can do if you're interested. There's the QR code if you want to follow that up. That'll take you to a registration link. I also do online brain set courses, and for this year, it's 257. There's the QR code for that. And it is a 4-week, 4-module course. It's 2 hours a week. It ends up being about 12 hours because in that time, you are doing your own thing. You are working in your own classroom and maybe moving things around. And again, you're sending photos, but you're getting a lot more information. You're getting all of the 3 pillars of information in the course. You're getting information about behaviour, you're getting information about attachment theory, about Maslow's needs and how they all connect to children's needs. So it's a complete pedagogy. The Brain Set Environments formula is a way to teach. It's not just where you put the furniture. It's actually a way to teach. So if you're interested, you can join our community. The next Brain Set course is going to be starting in December. So there's time to register for that. We're in the middle of the October one. So you can register for December if you would like to. And I also do staff training, both online and face-to-face, if that's something that you're interested in too. And that's the whole Brain Set. And in that, I go into people's rooms and work with them to move their things around. I've just done some work in South America, in Bolivia, which has just been an amazing experience and helped the teachers there work through the Brain Set process. And it's ongoing. We're still doing coaching. It's ongoing because I always give extra support afterwards. We don't just stop when it stops, when the course stops. And if you just want to get in touch with me for something else, there's the QR code for that. That'll take you to Future Strong Education and to the Contact Us page that you can have a look at. So I'm going to stop the share and just take any questions. I know we're 1 minute over time, so that's not too bad. So any quick questions that we might have, and then I'll finish the session. So any questions from anyone? No? So if you think of something later, I'm really happy for you just to send me an email if you think of something later. I've taken it off the screen now, but I'll just tell you that you can email Kathy at futurestrongeducation.com. Thank you for your participation. You will get a recording sent out to you probably by the end of the week sometime. And as I say, there was a lot of people have registered for this session, and they'll all be getting the recording as well. So if you're one of those people watching the recording, I hope this has been helpful for you. And ladies that are on board with me now, I hope this has been useful for you as well. Hi, Sarah. All right, everyone, I'm going to finish the session now. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great evening. It's probably evening where you are. It's morning where I am, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.